Hey guys, welcome back. And today we are going to be doing a new video. So the NFL trade deadline is on Halloween. It's on October 31st. And so there are a lot of names rumored to be traded, big names here. Now, I do want to come out and say, I know not all these guys are going to be traded, but these are 15 players who could be traded before the NFL trade deadline. And if they are traded, my three top spots and where I ultimately think they would best fit. But before we get into it, be sure to hit that like button, subscribe if you are new. We just hit 1,000 subscribers last Monday, but the grind doesn't stop. We're trying to get to 2,000 now. Also, be sure to sign up for Underdog Fantasy using my code JWAC to get double your initial deposit up to $100. That is code JWAC. We've got some really fun names in here. I'm really excited about this one. I have been sick the last week. Like, I couldn't move on Wednesday. It was really, really bad, but recovered now. Still battling a little bit of some sinus stuff, but we're doing good. Let's go ahead and get into my first name, and that is Cordarrelle Patterson, who, yes, I have him listed as a joker here because that's what the Falcons have him listed as. And this is a little bit of an interesting one because the Falcons have two really good running backs in Tyler Algier and Bijan Robinson. Both of those guys are really good. Cordarrelle Patterson, used in special sets, but he is not being utilized to the best of his abilities. There are a lot of teams that I think are in desperate need of some running back help. The Chicago Bears are my top fit for him, I think. I think that they have injuries to Roschon Johnson, Khalil Herbert, Dante Foreman, who had a good game today. He's been banged up a little bit. I think he played in Chicago. I think getting a player like him who you can use in the special teams, you can use as a receiver, I really like that move for them. Now, Carolina is another one. Carolina, Miles Sanders has been absolute cheeks this year. So go get a guy who's got speed. He is a veteran. He's on a pretty good contract, and you can kind of use him in a bunch of different ways as well. And then the Giants, because Saquon is constantly in and out of the lineup, Matt Breida is not the answer there. Saquon is an incredible talent, but Matt Breida can't be your answer. I think these are the top three spots, but I think the Bears, a team that loves to run the football, would really benefit from having Cordarrelle Patterson on their team. The likelihood that I think Cordarrelle Patterson is moved is probably around 50%. I don't think it's a foregone conclusion, but I think it's around a 50-50 chance he could get moved. Moving on to the next player, and we've got Hunter Renfrow. Now, the chances he is moved, I think, are about a 90% chance. I just don't see him staying in Vegas much longer. They went out and they got Jacoby Myers this year, who's been fantastic for them. And they haven't really used Hunter Renfrow to the best of his abilities. There's a guy who's a good route runner, good slot guy. I saw someone say he could be like the next Wes Welker. I could definitely see that, who started his career in Miami, kind of ended up getting moved, ended up going to New England, had a really good season, a couple of years there. Then went to Denver, was really good with Peyton Manning on those Broncos teams. I could see Hunter Renfrow adding a lot to a really good team. The Colts, my team, are the first team that came to mind. You need another receiver. I think his play style is a little bit too similar to the guys they have on the team. I think they need a guy who can stretch the field a little bit more, which we will have another receiver that I have the Colts going after here. You get the Giants as well. Again, I just think he's more of a slot guy, and the Giants have about 200 slot guys on their roster. I think the Bills are the perfect fit because I think he could play in the slot. You have Diggs, you have Gabe Davis, but you could put Hunter Renfrow in the slot. I don't think he's going to be expensive. I think he's going to be maybe a fourth, maybe a fifth round pick. I think it's worth it because I think he adds a lot to your roster. He's got reliable hands, good route runner. I think he enhances your chance to win a Super Bowl because he's another weapon teams have to account for. I think the Bills would be an excellent landing spot for Hunter Renfrow. And like I said, I think it's about a 90% chance he gets moved. He just hasn't been used there. They tried to move him in the offseason, couldn't find anything. The Bills have been struggling as of late. I think you could see a chance that they go out and make a move and a splash at the deadline. I think Hunter Renfrow is the guy they should target. Garrett Bolles, we've talked about the Broncos potentially having a fire sale here. And Garrett Bolles is one of the guys that has come to mind and come to mention quite a bit for the Broncos. He's been a good left tackle the last few years when he has been on the field, but he's dealt with some injuries. and the Broncos are trying to clear some cap space. So I think Garrett Bolles, the chances he has moved, again, I would say probably about a 75% chance. I just don't know if he's going to end up coming back. But I think the Browns are the team that should go get him. They don't seem to have a ton of faith in Jedrick Wills. You had an injury earlier in the year to Jack Conklin, your right tackle. So you've got the rookie DeJuan Jones playing over there, who's been playing solid, but I think going out and getting a veteran tackle is a good move. I was talking to someone on X Twitter about this recently, and he was like, well, why would teams give up a valuable draft capital for an aging tackle? The thing is, with tackles, they seem to get better with age. I think there's a real chance he could go for a third-round pick. He's a really solid left tackle. I think he's probably a top 10, 15 left tackle in the league. I think that definitely helps. Other teams, the Tennessee Titans, have a major tackle problem. I just don't think the Titans are going to be buyers at the deadline. I think they're going to look to sell, which you'll see later on. And then the Seahawks, they've had injuries to both the left and right side of the line, but they just seem to constantly have guys stepping up on their bench that play really well. So I don't know that they have anyone moved. I think the Browns are the team that makes the most sense and are the team that should go after Garrett Bolles. Jaylen Johnson is a guy who had a pick six today against the Raiders. We've been hearing this for a little bit, though, that the Bears might look to move guys like Jaylen Johnson and Darnell Mooney, who is not on this list. And I think Jaylen Johnson would be an excellent addition to a few of these teams. I think the Niners, their secondary is one of the areas I have a little bit of concern about. You have some issues at the tackle spot, specifically the right side. Colton McKivitz hasn't been necessarily incredible. I think going out getting a right tackle could be nice. But I also think going out and getting a corner could be a nice addition as well. You've got Charvarius Ward. Go add another weapon. I think Jaylen Johnson would be an excellent number 2 corner. The Cardinals as well, another team that I think he would fit really, really well on in Jonathan Gannon's defense. The problem is I just don't think they're going to be buyers either. But the Colts are the team that I think should go out and get him. I mentioned that I have a receiver coming up for the Colts. I think corner is a much bigger need for the Colts than people realize. Juju Brents went down with a quad injury. We had Dallas Flowers go out. Darrell Baker is not good. Kenny Moore is really our only plus corner. Jaylen Jones, the rookie from Texas A&M, he's been solid, but that's not anything to write home about. You need a number 1 or a number 2 corner. I've loved what Juju Brents has done when he's been on the field, but you've got to go add other guys. I think Jaylen Johnson would be excellent in Gus Bradley's defense. Again, I think the chances he's moved about 50-50. I think that he could be a really good addition to a team that's looking to make a playoff push. And so I've got him as the Colts' dream target. Chase Young, you could put Montez Sweat here. Doesn't really change anything for me. I think either one of them will be moved, I think, without question. So I'll say 100%. I think they would look to potentially move Chase Young because of his injury concerns. He had a really good game today against the Giants. He's been excellent this season when he's been on the field, but I do think there's a chance they move him. And I think the Bears should go out and target him. Perfect 4-3 edge rusher, would fit in that defense so well that Eberflus likes to run. And their pass rush hasn't been that great this season whatsoever. Chase Young is a game changer. We know how good he can be. I think he goes for about a 3rd-round pick. Other teams, the Ravens and the Niners. We've seen the Niners be aggressive and trying to go get a pass rusher in Randy Gregory. Why not go get a guy who I think enhances your ceiling that much more? And that's Chase Young. This is a guy who's dealt with his fair share of injuries, but when he's on the field is dynamic and a real weapon. I think he could definitely see flourishing in a new home. I think the Bears should be the team that makes that move. He's also got relationships with Justin Fields, who was his quarterback when he was at Ohio State. I think there's a lot of connections there, and I think the Bears should make the call. Next up, it's Jerry Jeudy. I think the chances he's moved are about 100%. I don't think he will be on the Broncos by the end of this year. You could take the Panthers off of this because I don't think they would make the move with Steve Smith after his comments. So you got the Colts and the Giants. I think he's a field stretcher. He's got good hands. He's shown flashes. He's dealt with injuries. He's been in and out of the lineup. But when he's been on the field, he has shown that he can be a solid receiver. And I think he complements the Colts receiver group really well. We have heard from guys in the Colts media that they have been active in trying to go trade for Jerry Jeudy. I think he's an excellent fit. I think he works well with Downs and Pittman. Pierce can come in and rotate in and out with Jeudy. I don't think he's going to be all that expensive. I think he would be a really solid addition to the squad. I would love him on the team. Jerry Jeudy was my favorite receiver in that draft. Now, in hindsight, when you've got a draft with Justin Jefferson and T. Higgins, and I want to say A.J. Brown was or Pittman was in that class. This receiver class was ridiculous. Jeudy is not one of the top guys that comes to mind in that class, but I still think he could be a really valuable weapon to certain teams. I think the Colts will be a really good spot for him. And then we've got Kevin Byard. We talked about the Titans being sellers. I think they will end up selling, and I think Kevin Byard could be one of the first guys to go. I think the Eagles make this move. I actually do think this one is going to happen. The Eagles lost a lot of help in their secondary this offseason, losing C.J. Gardner-Johnson. You lost guys. I'm trying to remember the other safety that they had. He's on the Raiders now. I'm blanking on his name. Marcus Epps. You lost guys in your secondary, but I think Kevin Byard or Budda Baker, who I don't think is going to be moved, but I think Kevin Byard could. He's been one of the top safeties in the NFL over the last few years. He's getting older. He's got playoff experience, and I think he fits this defense incredibly well. He is going to provide backside help, and their safeties have been one of their big issues this year. We've heard that they want to be aggressive. Howie wants to be aggressive and going out to get secondary help. I think Kevin Byard is the guy. The Packers, I think they're going to end up selling, making some moves here and there. I just don't know that they're going to look to buy. And the Cowboys, I think, could also be teams. But I think the Eagles are going to be aggressive. I would give up a second-round pick and bring Kevin Byard to the team. The next guy is Devin White. Now, the chances he has moved, very, very slim. I would say maybe a 15% chance. But he did request a trade this offseason. And he's a linebacker. And there are teams that are looking for linebacker help. Again, the Eagles. Nicholas Morrow has been good. You're getting Nakobe Dean back in the roster, which is solid. But Devin White is a really good linebacker. He's shown real flashes. He protects the middle of the field. He's a good tackler. He has his mental lapses here and there, but I think he could be a really solid option for this Eagles team. The Bills are a team. You're missing Matt Milano. You're missing Tremaine Edmonds, who went to Chicago. I think the Bills actually make more sense than the Eagles do. And then you got the Cowboys as well, who I believe Leighton Vander Esch is injured. They could look to go target a linebacker, especially because this is not a linebacker-heavy draft class. I could see a team trying to go make a move here, whether that be Devin White or Josie Jewell from the Broncos, who was not on here. I think Devin White could be a name to pay attention to. I think he is a player that could be moved, but I think it's about a 10 to 15% chance he is actually moved. Next up, we've got Marquise Brown. Now, from what we're hearing, the Cardinals aren't actively looking to move Marquise Brown. They see him as a good weapon. The chances he is moved, I think, are about a 6 to 10% chance. Don't think it's very likely, but if a team was to make this move, it's the Carolina Panthers. I think he would go for a second, maybe a third-round pick. But this guy's had a really, really good season so far in Arizona. A team that's been disappointing, but their receiver core looks pretty good with Marquise Brown. Rondale Moore is getting used in some really fun ways, and then Michael Wilson. But Marquise Brown, he's shifty, he's quick. I think that's exactly what Carolina needs for Bryce Young. They don't have that on the outside. They thought that's what they were getting with Jonathan Mingo. Jonathan Mingo, when I put on his tape, I questioned his quickness and his speed, and that is shown. They don't have that guy. I think Marquise Brown could take the top off the defense and be a really good weapon in Carolina. Once again, you got the Colts and the Giants as potential spots. If the Giants win next week and they get to about 3-5, I could definitely see a world where they're looking to bring in another receiver because the NFC is not that talented. They could get into the wild card spot. I could see them making a move, but I think Carolina desperately wants to get a number one receiver for their quarterback. I think Marquise Brown could be that guy. Next up, we've got Derrick Henry. Wow. You guys saw the thumbnail. He was on this list. I think the chances he has moved is about a 50 to 70% chance. I don't think he's going to be on Tennessee after the deadline. They drafted Tyjae Spears, who has shown flashes. He's got incredible quickness, but this team is not going anywhere this year. They're not going to win the division. They're probably the worst in the division right now. And they just have a lot of question marks and a lot of holes that I think they need to fill. And there are teams that are going to look to go get him. The Ravens, their running back room has banged up every year. J.K. Dobbins is injured. Now, you've obviously got guys like Gus Edwards who have been stepping up, but Derrick Henry is an upgrade over Gus Edwards. The Bills, they've been in this talks forever, but I think Tampa Bay is the team that should make this call. The NFC South is up for grabs. Their run game is terrible. Every time I'm playing Underdog Fantasy and Rachaad White's numbers are up, I'm always hitting the lower. He does absolutely nothing for that team. He doesn't move the needle. I think Derrick Henry would be an excellent spot for him. The Bears could make this move. There are a number of spots, but I think that the Buccaneers and Derrick Henry would be an excellent spot for him because they have that division is wide open. They're only a game back in the division. They could get that done. I think Derrick Henry in Tampa would be excellent. Next up, we've got T. Higgins. Now, the chances he has moved, I think, are about 5%, but I think they should. And I'll explain why. He's a free agent at the end of this year. You can franchise tag him, but I don't think you should do that. I think you should trade him now, get draft capital, and then you've got other receivers here. Tyler Boyd. You drafted Charlie Jones and Andre Ishivis. They've got pieces here and a really good receiver class as well coming up. T. Higgins is probably not going to be on the Bengals for much longer. You've got Jamar Chase. You've got Joe Burrow. Those guys are going to be locked up for a long time, and you don't want to have to pay another big contract to a third guy. A number of teams are going to go out and try and get T. Higgins. We talked about the Bills and the Giants already for receivers, but we haven't talked about the Packers, who I think are in desperate need of a wide receiver one. I don't think Christian Watson nor Romeo Doubs is a number one receiver. T. Higgins has size, speed, and he's been a little bit down. So maybe the Bengals will be hesitant to move him now because his value is probably at a low right now. I think you could get at least a second-round pick, and the Packers will have 2 second-round picks to move from the Aaron Rodgers trade. I think this deal would make tons of sense. I would love this for the Packers and the Bengals. I think it would make sense for you to move him now and get draft capital for the future, but I think T. Higgins should get moved, but the chances are probably less than 10%. Then we got Saquon Barkley. 0% chance. I did this before the news this morning. He's not going to get moved. He doesn't want to get moved. Same teams that I thought Derrick Henry would fit with Saquon, but I think the Ravens would make that move. Could you imagine a backfield with Saquon Barkley and Lamar Jackson? It would be crazy. Saquon is a free agent coming up, so I think that the Giants could look to move him and try and get some capital for him before he hits the open market, because I do think he's going to get a contract from a team, and I don't think he's going to be back on the Giants. So I think it would make sense to move him for like a third, second, maybe a fourth, maybe a 3 and a 5. I don't know what the value would be. I just don't think it's happening. I don't think Saquon is going to get moved, and we'll move on. I do think the Ravens would be incredible, though. Next up, we got Danielle Hunter. I think this is about a 100% chance. I don't think he will be a Viking. He is leading the league in the sacks currently, and I think he's going to get moved. The Vikings have been very disappointing. I think there are a number of teams that are looking for an edge rusher, but Jacksonville is that team. Trayvon Walker has been a massive disappointment so far throughout his early career. Josh Allen is having a really, really good season. Danielle Hunter leads the league in sacks. I think he goes for a first-round pick without question. Jacksonville is in that contender tier. My power rankings update tomorrow. They definitely saw a jump up after this week. Jacksonville is a really good team. Danielle Hunter, Ian Rappaport reported that the Vikings are receiving calls on Danielle Hunter. We saw Roquan Smith get moved last year. I think there's a real chance Danielle Hunter could get moved. I think Jacksonville would be very smart to get on the phone. He fits this defense perfectly, and they need another pass rusher desperately if they're going to contend. I think he would be it. I've been predicting this since last offseason. Danielle Hunter to Jacksonville. I am tripling down on this. I think he will be a Jaguar by the deadline. Then we've got Brian Burns. I do think there's a real chance Carolina moves him. There's been some contract dispute stuff. They haven't been able to come to an agreement. And I think this could definitely be a real consideration here. You're getting a first-round pick for Brian Burns for sure. Why not the Baltimore Ravens? This is a team that has done a really, really good job at rushing the passer this year, but you've got some free agents coming up. I don't think you have that true dominant edge rusher. The Ravens were buyers at last year's deadline. They went out and they got Roquan Smith. Why not go get Brian Burns, a guy who has been really good for Carolina? He's going to need to get a new contract, which might be the hesitation there with Baltimore. You just paid Roquan Smith. You just paid Lamar Jackson. But if this team wants to go all in and with a chance to win the Super Bowl, I think Brian Burns could enhance that window. Once again, the Chicago Bears, maybe by some miracle, the Panthers could get their first-round pick back, or the 49ers. They could make a move here to pair alongside Nick Bosa, and that would be scary, but I don't think Brian Burns will go to San Francisco. I think there's about a 60% chance he has moved. Where, that's kind of up in the air. I think Baltimore will be the best spot for him. And then my last player here is Kirk Cousins. I think it's about a 0% chance he's moved. I just don't think he's a family man. I don't think he's going to waive his no trade clause. But I think the Vikings are probably kicking themselves that they have a no trade clause in that contract. Because I think if they could, they would 100% move him. I think the Patriots would be that team. The Patriots, Mac Jones hasn't been good. Now, he had a good game today against Buffalo, but overall, he hasn't been good. I think there's a lot of teams that are like right there. I think the Colts could even get on the phone because Gardner Minshew has thrown away some of these games. The Colts could be in play. The Titans could be in play. There are a number of teams that have banged up quarterbacks that I think they think their window is now and they've got a chance to really make a push. And Kirk Cousins on an expiring contract could bring you back a first-round pick. I fully believe you could get a first-round pick for Kirk Cousins. I think New England would be very smart to make that move. Also, they could extend him for the future and have their quarterback moving forward. I think that would make sense, but I think he's going to stay on Minnesota, and they're going to probably suck the rest of the year, especially because I do think they're going to move Danielle Hunter. But that's going to do it for me in this video. Let me know. Who do you guys think gets traded? Who do you think stays on their current teams? Would love to hear your thoughts and opinions down below. Leave a like, subscribe if you are new, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Adios.